Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show, coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, from our Denver studios. I'm your host and also your moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is how to live consciously in our body. And let me introduce you to our guests and also our cast. And today we are lucky to have Janet Cook here with us in the studio. Welcome, Janet.
Welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Janet is a Rubenfeld synergist, and she's also known, I think, sometimes as a body whisperer.
Body whisperer.
That's right. And let's go on and introduce everybody from our health cast. And I'm looking for these Skype people.
Where did we go?
Okay, so we have with us Linda Dyer. She is our health and self-growth cast member and coming to us from Australia, right in the middle there. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we also have Jim Gillette on the left. He's also our health and also our spirituality cast member. He's coming to us from San Antonio, Texas. And then all the way,
glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. And all the way to the right, it's Ninon de Rosa. She's also our health and self-growth cast member, and she's coming to us from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. It's great to be with you. Great to be with you, Janet, as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. So in the first half hour, we're going to explore and have a dialogue about what happens when we are not living consciously in our bodies. And then in the second half, we will have a similar dialogue, but this time we're going to be exploring in a dialogue what are some of the tools and some of the ways that our guests and also our cast members have either helped themselves or have assisted their clients to make sure that they are living consciously in their bodies. Does this sound good?
It sounds good.
All right, so let's start with the leading question. And the leading question is, what are the things and the problems and the issues that humans create when we are not consciously living in our bodies?
Well, simply put, in my line of work as a certified Rubenfeld synergist, I help people to understand and really educate them about the value of living and listening to the wisdom of their body. And when we do that, Steve, it really helps us become available, as far as what messages our body's sending us all the time, such as we'll get pain, we'll get tension, and when we talk about money and everything, we get dis-ease in our body, which can run into quite a bit of money, or, as far as like hospital stays and what have you. So when we're not aware, and that's the first piece we have to become, because I imagine many people have different levels of consciousness. Some can become conscious. Some people can't because of maybe blockages, emotional stress, and it certainly can influence the way they are in their body and in their life. There is a connection. You can really see where what's happening in a person's life is really affecting, you can see how the body is manifesting a metaphor. I find that really fascinating to just observe that and see many stories and listen to people's stories about that.
So when people are not consciously listening to what their body is telling them, usually, and correct me if I'm off somewhere in La La Land, but usually they're going to end up getting seriously ill, right? And it's kind of interesting because my experience with human beings, speaking for myself as well, is until we hit by a 2x4, we don't want to listen.
Correct. Or we get a significant emotional event. How many times have we heard people have changed their lives? Something has happened dramatically in their life that has changed them to where that they would leave a high-pressure, high-paid corporate job and go out to the farm. Or when people unfortunately get the disease of cancer in their life, and you read so many stories and listen to people, there's a shift that happens. And I think that's part of the process of becoming conscious of what's happening in their life.
So do
What
you
that
have,
mean?
go ahead.
Okay.
No, I'm just. This is good. All right, so let me just ask you one more question, and then I'll give you the mic, Ninon. So Janet, would you be willing to share a personal example from your own life?
Okay.
did you have a 2x4, or how did it occur for you?
For my own personal life, how I was introduced into Rubenfeld Synergy was, I have a very good friend that was an intern in the program. She was in her 3rd year. And what I did was, I said, well, I always was curious about what you did. So we had a session, and it was a life-changing session for me. Simply put, years ago, some 30-some years ago, I always had some pain in my left hip, especially if you had a stick shift and you had to shift. And of course, me being unconscious, you know, and not knowing anything about my body, out of that session came a huge emotional release of all the trauma that was associated with that pain in my hip from a horrible car accident I had as a head-on. And until that day, it was, you know, I had that pain, but from that point on, I've never, ever had that pain in my left hip. And I really wanted to kind of explore, because I was really curious, what just happened in my body? What was that all about? And the more I'm learning, I'm still learning. I mean, I don't know everything, but I'm fascinated of how that works, because we are 98% water. We do absorb. We're not like in the animal world. There's a great book called Waking the Tiger that talks about in the animal world that when, say, a deer gets shot or scared, they immediately lay down and they have shivers, and they actually, that's the trauma that's being released. Well, guess what, Steve? We don't do that. We don't lay down and just there. We hold it, and it's in our body somewhere.
And it usually affects one or several of our organs. Right?
Correct. And it all depends on what's happened to that person, how it's affecting, and you can see a metaphor, you know, what's happening.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Ninon.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Ask the question, but it's trying to acknowledge, I guess, something that's happened to you that you don't want to acknowledge. How do people acknowledge that? That they know it's there, but they never want to sort of face it on, or they don't want to address it. And that's when you said you addressed your problem and it went away. How do we do that?
I think most of it is because of denial. You know, and that's a traditional thing. It's for survival. We deny things and we say, well, as long as I don't acknowledge it or become aware of it, it's not there. And for me, and we go in and out. I mean, I get in denial sometimes too. But for me, and let me make a point when you said that went away, that was one minute story of my life. I'm going to be 62 this year. I'm still doing my work. There's still more stuff that comes out of all my personal sessions. And as a healer, we need to do that. We help people heal. We witness that, but we also need to be doing our work. But
I'm older than you, and I have a lot of work to do, believe me.
Oh, my God. I can't believe Ninon admitted that. On cable.
I'm always, come on, I'm always learning. I'm always intrigued and learning, and why, what, when, how. I'll never die. Too much work.
Well, I'm committed to live 400 years. That's what I'm committed. Do you think it's possible?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take care of your body.
I heard that it's been done before.
Really?
I'm not in solar.
In the history of humanity, supposedly this has been done. It has been done before, that human beings have lived for hundreds of years.
Could be.
Yeah, read the Bible. It's fine.
All right. So does anybody else on the cast would like to share anything that was like a wake-up call for your health, for your body?
Yeah, Janet, really interesting what you're talking about, because I ended up with lupus, a disease of the immune system.
Wow.
And then I cured myself of that disease just simply through understanding the body. But it took 9 years to really, and I still am a work in progress. However, I think it had a lot to do with, rather than, I think denial is one thing, but for me I think it's also an ignorance, like I didn't understand that I couldn't work 4 jobs and do what I had to do. I was copying my dad's behaviour. I was copying other people's behaviour and thought that was what, I do. That's what he did, that's what I do. That's how the money came in. That's how I got through, 2 degrees in 2 years and raised a family and worked 4 jobs. And that's how I did it, because I had the energy to do it. So I did it. And then all of a sudden everything started to run out. I was like, whoops, who took my energy? Where did it go? And other people gave me advice, like, you know, you need to take vitamins or you need to do this or you need to do that, and it wasn't totally correct. And so then I found it really confusing for me, because I thought, well, who do I listen to? Because the path that I'm being guided down isn't taking me anywhere to wellness. And it was then I decided myself that after 4 years of going through hospitals and doctors and what have you, one day it just dawned on me that I need to decide, first of all, to get well. I need to make a decision. This isn't a wish. This isn't something that's mediocre. This is a clear, irrevocable decision. I don't want this disease anymore, and I'm going to get well. And I know that then the next step was I needed to believe that I could get well. And being filmed for one of the people filmed in The Secret, because I did this, it was that, and I think one of the things The Secret is criticised for is that lack of belief, that you can believe something happens and it falls out of the sky and you can have it, rather than there's an action that takes place. So I not only believed, I remember walking out of the hospital, deciding today I'm going to change and do it differently. Then I'm going to believe that I can, and then I'm going to act on it. And to me, those two rotated. So the more I believed that I could get well, the more I acted on it. The more I acted on it, the more I believed. And I found those two rotating like a big ball, and it's like I couldn't stop the progress. But to me, the essence was the expectation. I expected then, the minute I decided to get well, I expected to get well. And so I went and bought the books and changed the diet, and I lived this wellness. I put pictures of myself in a representative tennis outfit all over the house until people got sick of it. But I never got sick of it, because I said, what have I done today to get back to that? What have I done today to get back to that? And people say, well, how long did it take you? And I'll say, well, 14 years. That's a long time. I said, well, I'd be dead if I didn't.
Linda, it's great. I mean, you're already jumping ahead to the second half of the show, which is really about the solutions and modalities. Yeah. But we're kind of more curious right now. What happened before you got to that point? Like, where were you? Were you feeling that you were losing ground? What was happening with you?
I was frightened.
What was the signs?
I was frightened. It was very foreign for me to be sick. It was, I had so much energy. I was a representative tennis player. I represented in cricket as well. I was athletic. I was I wanted to do degrees. I was travelling to America and I did my degrees at the University of Oregon. I could do anything. I was on their swim team. I was on their tennis team. And then when I got sick, it was like, how can you be that well and then that sick? I didn't understand it. I had no concept of that level of sickness. So,
all right, so
fear, yeah.
So what I'm curious about, Linda, is knowing what you know today, how much of that sickness are you feeling responsible for, or do you know?
Oh, all of it.
That's a good one.
Taking full responsibility.
Great.
Yeah, I'm totally at cause for it, because somewhere in my makeup was the need to be good at everything in order to be recognised.
So are you saying, I'm trying to read between the lines there, but are you saying that you pushed yourself? Because as I'm hearing your story, you're talking about, I'm a tennis player, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a go. So did you push yourself so much that your body basically just gave up?
Oh, yeah. I can talk about this in the second half, but I understand what happened now physically as well, because I became a physical fitness instructor and learnt about what happened. I was fascinated by how I got sick, and so I studied the body to find out, and I absolutely was at cause. It was like, how much more can I fit in one day? Everyone's got 24 hours. When people say I don't have enough time, and I think, well, I did so much in that 24 hours.
So
Too much.
In other words, you neglected your body. In other words, you didn't take care of your body. You were just taking care of your mind, and you weren't filling your body. Your body became run down. was apt to get anything it could.
I allowed the 4%, Ninon, of the conscious mind. I allowed it to take over my whole body, to run my body. I ignored the subconscious. I ignored the universal messages. I ignored, but then again, you know, it was ignorance too. I didn't understand that.
You ignore what you were
Nobody
putting
had taught
into the
me that.
body. You ignore what you were putting into the body and also what you were letting out of the body. So what you were putting in wasn't enough for what you were letting out. You were letting out far too much of energy and enthusiasm and forgetting, you know, actually you have a body here that you have to take care of, and you forgot about that.
Yeah, well, you know, there wasn't time.
There you go. It wasn't time. Funny how we don't take time for our bodies and what we put into them.
Very interesting. All right, so what about Jim? Jim, what's happening over there with you?
I can't point to an event that changed me so much. I've been searching my mind for this. But I remember when I quit smoking, and before I did, it started dawning on me that it was like a death wish. It was a metaphor for what was going in the wrong direction in my life. And that was a wake-up call, that when that came to me like that, then I had the consciousness to stop it. And so it was, I had to finally listen to my body, and it was screaming at me because, you know, my health was going down. And now this is, by the way, this is over 40 years ago. But it was, you know, it's not an easy thing to do, but for the only way I was able to do it is to recognize what my subconscious was telling me. And that was, this is a death wish. You know, it's in the reverse direction from life. And so that might have been the first time I could say that I had a message from my body telling me something that was important. Now, after that, because of that, then I got into all kinds of cleansing programs and detoxification and all that. And I know we'll get more into that. But it was a turning point for me. And I almost can remember where I was the first time I had that thought and recognized, for me, it was a death wish, you know.
Interesting. So for me, I really never got any serious illnesses, as I can recall. The only thing that's been strange with me is that after about 10 years ago, I checked out of society. I checked out of the madness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I, you know, just basically said, okay, so I'm going to go into this 12 by 12 room, and I'm just going to get to know who this guy Steve is and see what I can create from that. So as I did that, and as I figured out who I really was and what I really wanted, which was basically broadcasting, what I'm doing right now. This is my passion. And I started to put on weight because I spent, you know, 16, 18 hours a day in front of the computers. Mm-hmm. And about a year ago, it kind of dawned on me that hey, wait a minute, there's something off here, because I am in this work. I am conscious, although there's plenty of room for growth. Mm-hmm. I'm aware, I'm awake, and being, you know, 40 pounds overweight, there's something off about that. Okay, so that's the conclusion I came to, and I said, okay, so I got to do something. So what I did is I hired a nutritionist, and I went through a whole program, you know, to correct things, and then I got into exercise, and I lost 16 pounds.
Wow.
So, and I'm not done, but that's just my story, and hopefully that I'm doing this, you know, I'm not going to get sick. At least I'm hoping that I'll stay healthy.
But you're aware.
I'm aware, and
you're listening to your body.
I'm processing my emotions, right, as they come up. Mm-hmm. So
that's always a good thing.
So it's always a good thing. So hopefully I won't get any major illnesses. But it's interesting to me that, for example, people, you know, like smoking, mm-hmm. like people will know how bad it is for them, and help me understand this. Either you, Janet, or any of the cast. They know that every time they light up that cigarette, and I never smoked in my life, by the way.
Neither did I.
But they know that it's killing them, and they'll do it anyway. Please help me understand what that is about.
I don't know about the smoking. Maybe Jim can give us some tips on that. But when I talk about maybe drugs or maybe alcohol, what I imagine will be happening in somebody's body is, and I was thinking about that today, people that drink and do drugs, are they more aware of their body because they can't stay in it because there's so much pain that they just can't stand, that they go and they do the drugs and the alcohol to get the relief they need, to almost be out. But for smoking, I don't know. I think we'll defer to Jim, see what he has to say.
I can comment on that, and I think you just already made the distinction, Steve, is that almost everybody in their mind intellectually could agree that it's not good. That event or that thought that came to me was different from that, and it was more like from my body or from my subconscious, and it had an impact on me that it was real rather than the intellectual thought. The intellectual agreement that smoking is bad is almost just not enough for most people to stop. But this came from a deeper place within me, and that was, to a degree, maybe one of my first messages from the body, that it was like screaming in desperation, trying to reach Jim up in his brain, saying, you know what, this is bad. This really is bad. And I was able to hear it. But it wasn't that I worked it out intellectually.
But also, I was a smoker for many, many years, and I never ever thought of any part of this going into my body, being bad for me, or anything like that at all. I never acknowledged it ever. I used to wake up in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock, and put the makeup on and have a cigarette. And not 1, 2, 3. And I used to smoke, I think it was called Nat Sherman's, which are really strong. But it's funny, I think when you're a smoker, you don't think of what's going to happen to you because you're so addicted to it, and you just enjoy it so much that you're oblivious, or you make your mind oblivious of what it actually does to you. And I really can't recollect actually why I stopped or when I stopped, but I think there was one very big reason why I did stop. Was my husband was very, very sick, and we had just arrived in Rome, and he was sitting in immigration on the floor, and he was really coughing up blood, and he was a smoker, and I looked at him and I thought, wow. And I stopped smoking from that day on because of him, not because of me. So I can't say it was anything to do with me except for him putting this in me, and I haven't smoked since, and that was 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to me that as soon as people find out that the smoking, for example, is affecting one of their major organs, and the doctor tells them that, guess what?
Guess what?
You got cancer, and you got 6 months to live. All of a sudden, people start paying attention, but it's too late then.
True, and that's their choice. But sometimes I think it's because, again, not being conscious and not being aware of, what their bodies say. And I think part of it's because we do not educate people. What is it like to be aware of your body? What is it like to listen to the inner voice or the gut? What is it like that when you meet someone and you immediately get bad vibes? We tend to disregard that and still have that, relationship with the person, even though our body's screaming like, oh, here's some warning signs, and yet we choose to ignore that. And I think part of that is education.
So what are you getting from me?
I'm getting good vibes.
You're sitting next to me.
Good vibes.
1 feet away.
Yeah.
No choice.
Okay.
Handle that well, Linda.
As I'm saying, I think I got saved because I was totally unaware of what cigarettes could do, and I literally got saved through something else that happened that sort of saved me from getting on any of these illnesses. I've never, touched wood, ever had any bad illnesses. I'm just very fortunate, but maybe that's why. So something else attached into my body and helped me go over this smoking thing that could have killed me.
Okay, so how much of all of this has to do with, and how is it connected to how much we love ourselves?
Good question. I'd say that's going to be on an individual basis. How much you love yourself would be different for how much I love myself. And some people may not be able to love themselves because they don't know how. And they're just in an emotional place of stuckness, and they don't know how to move out of that. And they don't know how to really start that process. And people like myself as a Rubenfeld synergist, and there may be other modalities too. So I don't want the audience to say, hey, this is the only one. Yeah. You really have to find your calling, what fits good with you. But that person, something has to trigger them to make that step. And a lot of times fear is very limiting in our life. We're afraid to know the truth. We're afraid that they're going to think that, I'm bad, or, all those criticism and judgments come up for us. And until they experience a modality such as what I do, where it's really about a person, in a space that's very safe, very healing, very supportive. I really facilitate the process, really about witnessing. There's not judgment there. It's really about presenting and developing a relationship with you as a person and with you as your body. It's not, and in our society here, we want to take one session and boom, I'm all fixed. Well, like Lynn said, it took her 9 years. And, it's a process, and if we're willing to go down that road, you're going to be in a much better place.
I'll ask you something, Janet. How would somebody start this? Because people sometimes say, well, how can I love myself? They think that's selfish, whatever they think. How would audience, how would they start that process of liking and loving themselves? What would it be a first step for them?
I think the first step for anyone is to find a modality as far as maybe a therapist, or what I do is a Rubenfeld synergist, which is quite different than talk therapy. Mine's about listening to the body, because the body does not lie. It holds your whole story and the truth. And that would be a beginning piece, because you just don't go in and say, if Steve's a therapist, says, okay, you're the therapist, now tell me how I'm going to love myself. It doesn't work that way. You really...
That's what most people would think, so that's why it would be nice to find out how they would, get into their own bodies and find out what's going on.
Yeah, so how do I start? Yeah, how do we listen? Like, if I didn't go to you, let's say, to get a, get an assessment, let's say, that's not what I'm going to do first, but maybe I'm a viewer, and I'm wondering, is there any way in my own way that I can pay more attention and then maybe then go to you and learn how to interpret what the messages are? So can you give us some examples? What are some of the messages that people are receiving and they have been ignoring, but if you pay attention, then everything can change?
And again, it's where that person is in their life. Some people will come to myself as my practice, and they may not be ready for my work because it's about emotion. But if you're looking for like a self-help book, I think the first piece, and you always hear that, is that go someplace that's quiet, and go someplace where you feel comfortable. It could be the mountains, or you could sit in your living room and have nobody at home and just close your eyes and imagine a place where you feel at peace. Myself, it's the Caribbean beach, white sandy beaches and water. That's me. But not bad. But really about that, and close your eyes and just take those deep breaths in and out. And that's really the first step. It's really about relaxation. And as you breathe in, as you breathe out, then later on, after a couple minutes, then bring your awareness to your breath and see if you can bring your breath down into your body and see how far it'll go. Now, it's not going to go to the toes right away. After several breaths, you'll feel that. And it's amazing of how the body just relaxes. It's a great remedy or a tool or a kit for people that have sleep, that can't, they get home and they're just running around and things are happening in corporate, whatever, and they can't sleep. It's stress and anxiety. That's a really good tool to do before you go to bed or while you're lying in bed, and really help the body to relax and to get you into that sleep mode.
Interesting.
I think too that there's some stuff here that you can do around language. I think our language in many ways keeps us where we are, our own self-talk. So in NLP, one of the things we might do is for the person, because when a person comes to any therapist, they're basically in their problem. So all they see is, I have this huge problem, and that's all I have. I can't see outside of my problem. And so our job is to assist them to just remove all this and to see that is really a pimple on an elephant compared to what else is in their life. So that word or that statement, what else, is really dramatic, I find, in allowing people to look at what else. So we might say, or they can say to themselves, what else am I? I'm more than that, and what else am I? I'm more than that, and what else am I? And take the time to look at what are you? You know, you might be a great mum and you're not yet in your career, or you may be great at your career. It's only when we start to compete with other people that we start to think that we're not good enough, because we're comparing ourselves. However, we may be brilliant in areas that that person isn't. So, you know, that gentle tone of, and what else am I? And what else?
And what I find in my work is when you talked about when you in corporate or something and you compare yourself with somebody, what I find in Rubenfeld Synergy about listening to your body is that it's really not about the situation. It's about a trigger that happens that maybe when you were a young child, you were in an environment where you didn't have much self-worth. And that triggers that, and all that emotion that's held in your body from that event kind of comes to the surface, you know, and you're wondering what's happening, and you relate that emotional release, not release, but it's coming up. You relate that to the present day incident, and it's completely separate. And what I love about this work is the body will reveal the treatment program. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't diagnose, I don't cure, I don't do any of that. I really facilitate the person to get in touch with the body and just listen to it, and we follow the threads, you know, and that will lead us where we go. And again, the body has its pace, and it's just a beautiful, powerful work that happens.
That's similar to something I've done for many years. It started when I learned in meditation, if you're using some approach that is stilling the mind or going to subtler and subtler thoughts, that if thinking seems to be overwhelming you, you can become aware of the body. And it's not a scanning, focusing thing in the way I do it, but it's just listening, and immediately you're going to start noticing little places like a tension in the shoulder, something in the back of the neck or whatever. And just by letting the awareness go to that without judgment and to rest with it, there's a certain healing quality that goes with that awareness. And I find, and this is the way it's taught in some types of meditation, is that as you just be with it, it starts to, well, it could change, it could move around, it could, you know, intensify or get lessen, but then it sort of disappears, and then you notice you're thinking again. And you might also notice that because there usually is an equivalency between a lot of thoughts and sensations or conditions in the body, that you actually got past the blockage or the overwhelm you were feeling with the amount of thoughts going through. So just by shifting the awareness from the thoughts to the body and just being aware without trying to do anything, certainly not judging, you can release that blockage and get back to the quieting of the mind. So now for me, over the years, that's developed into something I do almost all the time. During the day, I look at the energy of emotion rather than trying to analyze the thinking that accompanies the emotion. And I don't even get too much into the emotion. I just recognize it as an energetic quality, and then I can dissipate it. And almost at times, like the deer that lays down and trembles, or you've seen many animals, sometimes you can see horses do it, that they just sort of shake and it just releases tension. You can almost do that with yourself as you get used to doing this. But for me, one way, if I can recognize the energy of an emotion, I go to it gently and try to dissipate it easily on that level of the body. And it's, for me, who processes a lot of things through the body, that really works for me.
You know, I'm listening to all that. I have another way that I do it as well, is I'm an author, and I find an incredible relief and also knowing yourself by writing. Writing things down, and even when you're sort of meditating, and even if you're, you know, they say to be silent and sit, well, sometimes you could be silent with a pad and a pen next to you, because if you can release, when you write something down, it's sort of, it's an accomplishment of whether it's good or bad, but it's a release out of your system that is now you've kind of sort of got it out there by writing it down. You can actually see it. And I found that in writing and being an author and sort of bringing a lot of things out that you think, oh, well, that was a sad moment, or you bring something, oh, that made me happy, and it's amazing once it's out in writing as well as meditating, because I truly believe to find a place in your home, and I believe it should be in your home, where you can actually, and I teach this to the younger generation, to actually find a place, sit down, and just look into space, do anything, it doesn't matter, but you'll find your body slowly relaxing and feeling, and you find that one place that you really like, and it's like your little tiny secret home place that you can actually address yourself, who you are and what you are. But writing was really my main thing, of getting it out by writing it out. And I just thought that's just another way of finding out who you are and what you are and releasing it.
Right, and the word releasing, I think, is what each one of us would use that word in our own way, of how we let go of a constraining or constricting blockage. It's releasing.
Yeah, release. It's hard to do release because it's like yours, and I'm not going to use that. But that's not the thing. It's just letting go, go and releasing it, with good, bad, right, or wrong.
Yeah, great. So our theme is how to live consciously in our body, and I wonder if some of our viewers are wondering, what do we mean by consciously? So what do you mean by living consciously in our body?
Being aware of what your body is saying, an ease of really a lot of freedom and easeful of movement, because when we have trauma and emotion in our bodies, you'll see people stiffen up and what have you. So really about easeful movement, a deeper knowledge of self-acceptance, of there. And self-love.
Do you feel that then there is a requirement for like being or learning how to be in the present moment? Because if we're not in the present moment, it's kind of almost impossible to hear anything our body is saying.
Absolutely, and it's a process. It's when that person is ready, and like you had said earlier in the program, something has to click, whether by a 2x4 over the head or a significant emotional event, but something has to trigger that process of saying, I'm not happy. And there's a lot of stuff happening in my life. And I see a lot of people with metaphors. For example, when people have leg problems, a metaphor is I can't stand. And really, you have to ask them, and be curious to explore it, from a generic piece of, you can't stand. Where is it that you can't stand in your life? Is it moving forward in your life, or you're moving backwards in your life? Or you're moving in a direction you don't want to go. And when people have problems with their stomach, it's really in the metaphor is, what is it that you can't stomach in your life? Mm-hmm. Or when you have problems with your throat, what is it that you can't say? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fascinating of the connection.
There's a connection.
And the bridge.
I'd love to ask you a quick question. Headaches. When people have headaches, obviously, the mind is overworking, or what is it? What is the... so people can get rid of their headaches, or what are they thinking? What's going on?
I read a really good book by Louise Hayes of How to Heal Your Body or Your Life, and in that she connects headaches to pressure, which makes sense when you have a lot of pressure. And for migraines, it's really about trying to be a perfectionist in your life. And trust me, there's nobody that's perfect. So it's really about self-acceptance and what have you. So to me, logically, it makes you have too much pressure in your life, and you have that, the pressure's got to be released somewhere. So when it does,
Yeah, I usually like to say we are all perfect, including our imperfections are perfect.
Yeah.
That's true, they are. They are, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, you said something that I wanted to come back to. You were talking about being in the present, and I would say that when we truly are with our body and listening, that is being in the present. It's a great way to practice presence. And this could be done through Tai Chi or Qigong, types of Qigong, or dancing, or sometimes athletics. And I mean, even the writing, there's a certain kinesthetic quality. You're in your body, translating out through your body, writing. But when you're in those moments, you're actually very close and in the present. And it frees you from all the other chatter if you can just be there easily and gently. It's definitely worth a daily practice, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still wondering about Linda, because her immune system is, our immune system is designed to protect us
Yes.
from illness. So
It's a
what's the
natural state.
connection? Help me understand. Maybe Linda can help us understand. What's the connection?
Well, the immune system.
well-
Go ahead. Let her do. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, from my understanding, like if a client comes to me too, I will say, like Janet was saying, which was wonderful, where in your body do you feel that? And then I've got an idea of what's going on for the client. But however, they need to express what's going on for them. For most of your immune systems, it starts in the bowel area. So you get irritable bowel, your digestive system plays up. So there's a lot of things around moving forward. It's around the hip area. There's a lot of things around fear. The bowel area is usually indication of fear, that fear of moving forward on your own. People would say to me, oh, you make $1 million for this company when you work for them. You've made $1 million for that company. Why don't you go and start your own business? Oh, my gosh. I had no concept of doing that because I had no model. My parents didn't have their own business. Nobody that I knew ran their own business. So I had nothing that I could model or had no concept of even. I was really way too fearful to go and do something like that. So, yeah, it's around, for me, it was around understanding, recognising what I was fearful of, the fear of moving forward, and then making that decision that I'm here for a purpose. There was a quote that I love, and it changed my life. And it was a quote by Stephen Bow, and Stephen Bow said, God's gift to you is more talent and ability than you can ever use in your lifetime. Your gift is to use as much of that talent and ability as you can in your lifetime. And when I heard that quote, I went, what am I doing? That snapped me out of where I was and said, get on with your life. You know that your purpose here is somewhere around teaching, because everything you've done in your world from the age of 11 is to teach. I've taught tennis and soccer and taught kids for years, and had 108 kids in a home for years and I've trained the trainer in physical fitness. So it was around teaching. So if your purpose is around teaching, then how can you do that better? How can you do it different? How can you be the best teacher on the planet in whatever field that, you were put on this planet for? So I started to focus on what I could be good at rather than all my fear and trepidation of moving forward. And gradually, I just worked on, I started to model people that had done that. I found a lady who wrote a book that cured her husband of cancer. It was Julie Stafford's Taste of Life. And I started to eat like they did. And I bought a juicer and I juiced everything. My husband was getting scared about coming home because everything was being juiced.
including the meat and potatoes?
Where's the cat? Where's the dog? Did you juice them too? So
That's a good one.
I was buying, vegetables in bags like you give carrots, like you give horses. Literally, we lived on that much juice. So, and things changed for me. I thought differently. I thought about how the statement in my life was, how can I make that happen? Rather than, I can't do that. How can I make that happen? How can I make that happen? So I started to think very differently, and my body responded accordingly. Because I can tell you, I would drive my son to school, and for some reason I had to pull him out of that regular school and take him to a very expensive private school because he would get the best, and of course that meant I had to work harder in order to do that. I was continually putting so much pressure on myself to be that overachiever, overworker. And when I got this, it was like, what school do you want to go to? And he said, I just want to be with my friends. I said, let's do that. And I pulled him out of the private school and I said, go and be with your friends. And it was just amazing. It was a transformation, I think, for all of us. And one of the best things that I get from it, not only did I cure myself, but my son's a singer. And I went and saw him yesterday, and he's on the stage and he says to this audience, do you know, my mum's in this audience somewhere, and she says to me that you can change your mind like that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he was listening. And he goes, just like this next song. And so he starts the song. It was a great metaphor, a great lead into the song. He starts the song really slowly. And then like that, the music changed and there was a great beat and we were all up dancing. And I went, wow, this is amazing, out of the mouths of babes.
Well, no, out of your mouth, actually. Because this was out of your mouth, Linda, because you actually, it's what you said to him without even thinking of that moment and doing it, not doing it on purpose, but in talking, how he picked it up and how you changed his life. Because he actually listened to you. And he
I actually don't believe you can change anyone's life. I believe you can instigate change, and they make the change. I don't profess to ever. I don't profess to ever change anybody. However, I'm all into instigation. You're perfectly correct.
Unconsciously, you said something to him that he picked up, and that made him feel and took into a beautiful song, which made everybody happy and dance. And that was the consequences of one thing you said.
And can I just say, that's a brilliant point, Ninon, because we don't get that when we change, the people around us change. The law of attraction is absolutely there. And it wasn't until I changed me that I could see the changes, in my son. And I can talk to him about, you know what, honey, you're at that age where I actually got my immune system, and I see that when you do what you do as a singer and they give you that free alcohol and that free this and that free that your immune system isn't coping with it as well as mine didn't either. And you may like to think about that.
But that's like when Steve was asking, what is living consciously to you? Well, living consciously is actually what you're doing,
right
hopefully
now.
Consciously. Yeah, right now what we're doing, hopefully we're helping other people as we're moving along with our show and instigating something into them that don't be afraid to say certain things. And it truly is and definitely the tone of your voice, how you say it, how you're dressed, how you walk into a room. This is all living consciously as to whom you are and what you're representing of yourself to other people. And if you're going to walk into a room with a stiff face and long face, that's not going to be very good. But if you're looking out there and you're happy and you're laughing and you're actually bringing all these people in with you, and how much you can change them by your son singing that song and everybody getting up and dancing. Look what he brought to people.
Oh, absolutely. I believe this is all around, as Janet was saying, around awareness. And as you become more aware and the people around you become more aware, then we know that vibration is going to go out and we're going to attract people at a different level of awareness for them to live. Yeah.
Whatever that vibration might bring or be, whether it's saying something or movement, it doesn't make any difference. That's what you're bringing into other people's lives, of living consciously of what's going on and what's happening.
Yeah.
And I wanted to add on to something what Lynn was on her story.
Linda.
Yeah, Linda. One of the things I wanted to add is I think a big piece of how we know we're living consciously in our body is when we move from habit to choice. She made a choice after she had gotten that illness of, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to ignore it and keep on going and think it's going to go away? Or am I going to make a choice and now I really have to listen to my body, and then what steps do I have to do for healing and for wellness?
I have a funny feeling about this choice thing, and I've spoken about this before, is that a lot of people, in personal development talks about choice, that we always have a choice. And I kind of got to a place with where I am is that the only choice I feel that I have is to choose me, is to choose being connected to me.
True.
And to be connected to my spirit and connected to my love. If I don't choose that, the rest of it is automatically taken care of.
Well, that is your choice. That is your choice.
But usually when I hear choice is that there is a choice between two things. Like you can choose this or you can choose that. And what I'm attempting to clarify here for me and maybe for the viewers, but mostly from me, is that there's only one choice for me, and that is to choose myself, to choose to be connected. And when I'm choosing to be connected to me, I am automatically in the present moment. I cannot be disconnected. I cannot be disconnected from me. I cannot be disconnected from you. And therefore, I will not be operating from the past or from the future. I am right here.
But
right
that's
now.
a choice you make.
Yes, but okay. Maybe I'm not.
You made a choice.
maybe
He's hung up on choice.
maybe I'm not explaining
one
it.
choice.
Maybe I'm
Everything
not-
else or be present.
No,
You-
it's a
And then
choice.
you take care of the present, and everything else takes care of
It takes care of itself.
Yes,
Yes.
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 That's true.
Thank
Agreed.
you. Thank you for.
We all agree.
Yeah, because when you say that,
Steve, you're okay. You're okay.
you know, when you say that there is a choice. Okay, so what's
Oh,
the
the
choice?
season was good.
I'm going to
me.
listen to my body. It's going to,
Okay.
yeah. If I listen to my body, it's going to give me the correct choice for who I am and for me.
Is there another choice?
There could be, but I'm going to listen to my body. There could be many choices, but I'm going to listen to my body.
That's the choice you've made.
That's a
And I
choice I
think
make.
that's an important point, because when you're unwell, you tend to gather people around you to make you feel good. Yeah? So, and it's like you look at a lot of, there's associations for illness. I was asked to join the Lupus Association, and I said, why would I do that?
Well, when I was
This is
into
really lost company.
Linda, when I was into gambling, I was invited to join the Gamblers Anonymous, and I went to the meeting, and I was like, oh my God, I don't belong here. Within 2 seconds, I could tell, because what they were saying, they were all standing up and saying, my name is John Smith, and I'm a gambler. And I said, what am I doing here? I came here because I don't want to be. So why am I going to reaffirm that I am?
Yeah.
That's insane.
That was you making a choice, deciding not to go there.
So I left.
I've never been back.
Never been back.
Yeah, I did exactly the same at the association.
Yeah, but also you don't gamble anymore, right, Steve?
Pardon me?
Also, you don't gamble anymore.
No, I don't.
But you
No, I
cured
don't.
yourself, didn't you?
I pretty much cured myself. Yeah, just like Linda cured herself.
Right.
Yeah. Because guess what? It's us that making ourselves sick. So isn't it the natural progression that it's only us that can cure ourselves?
I think sometimes because we don't trust ourselves, we feel we have to go to a doctor, we feel we have to do this and we have to do that. And Linda, you're right, you cured yourself. You did not hang around people with lupus. You decided to change your diet, you decided to do that, and that was what you wanted to do to make yourself well again. And guess what happened? You made yourself well again, and you actually did it yourself.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Yeah, I think-
And I mean, doctors
Getting
have their
to my
role
point.
in society, but I'm sorry, but now we have people today that if they can't pass gas, they have to go see their doctor. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's a lovely example, Steve.
Well, that's what came to me. Are you judging me for my example?
He made a choice.
I made a choice. It's a natural body function. What? It's just part of the truth.
Oh, yours, Steve. You can keep it.
Oh, am I going to hear about this? Okay. I'm going to be getting emails. Okay. So, what do you think?
About which
But
comment?
I think when you go back to the choice, I think when you're unwell, we tend to choose to listen to other people, like somebody else needs to make me better, because I don't get it. I don't understand how I got sick, and so therefore I don't understand right now how to get well. So we're listening to a doctor, we're listening to people around us, we're listening to friends. And when I actually got well, I started to run, I actually worked with a doctor. I had a dream that the two hands of medicine should come together. And I'd gone into alternatives, and this doctor and I got together, and he was so excited to work with somebody like myself. And so together we could, cure so many people that could come to two different mediums. However, what happened was that when I made the choice to get well, then all these other people were no longer relevant because their message wasn't taking me to wellness. When I went to the doctors, it had been 4 years, and I'm getting worse. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And then my gorgeous husband at the time, he's going, but you need to go and make that appointment. I'm going, you know what? I don't. I actually don't. I get that now. I need to work on me. And I get that now. And so he got frightened. So all of a sudden, like people with cancer, people with immune disorders, it's not just about them. I've got a little boy that that cries because I'm anyone in a white coat that sees me going away back to hospital, he's terrified. So it's more than just me that I'm dealing with here. And I think in You're Unwell, this is what also comes into the picture. Should I go to the doctors and do the regular stuff because I've got other people here that's affected by this illness? Or can I do this on my own? Do I have enough awareness to love me and move forward myself and make my own changes that will ultimately affect them beautifully anyway? However, how many of us are aware that we can do that? And that's, that's a very important point here.
Very good point.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Linda.
Very, very good point. And turning all the way around and coming back to Janet.
Ninan, we don't have time. We don't have time to do that. I'm sorry, Ninan, but that's all the time we have for today. Many thanks to all of our viewers and of course our guest and also our cast member and the crew behind the glasses there. Just a reminder that when you come to our website at www.livingconsciously.tv, the more you vote on our shows, the more they're being played on channel 56, 57, and 219. So please vote and also comment. Engage with us on our website as well as on Facebook, on our Facebook page, facebook.com, Living Consciously TV. I love you all. And of course, everybody have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Saturday, same place, same time. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.